Okay, so I'm coming really quickly to talk about a thought really quick that I had earlier this morning. And it's dealing with there's this thing that I have where if I scratch it, it can become worse. Okay, for example, anything like chicken pox or um, something that deals with your skin, poison ivy, that if you scratch that thing or a ringworm or something like that, if you scratch it, it makes it more prone to infection, right? Which means it'll get worse instead of getting better. Well, I was thinking about, okay, and I was talking to myself like, Judè, don't scratch it, because you wanted to heal, you wanted to get better. So I was putting on the necessary ointment or whatever, antifungal, antibacterial to try to help clean it up or clear it up. And a thought came to me specifically about a certain type of sin, although I think this can really be applied to all sin first and foremost. But it really, really made me think about sexual sin and the scriptures that I've read about sexual sin. It always tells you to run away from that, flee from sexual sins, flee from fornication, right? And I was thinking how I was saying, okay, no, don't scratch it, because if you scratch it, it's going to get worse. And then it immediately correlated with me to sexual sin. And I don't know if anyone else has heard this, but I've heard as sex referred to as an itch that you can't scratch, like the person individually cannot scratch. And I was thinking about how when it comes to sex and for certain things, there's only like you have to have the other person or another person involved in order for it to be really satisfying and fulfilling. And so I thought about how we really, really should pretty much apply um, the same rules to ourselves when we have to fight sexual sin that we do to an infection such as or some type of condition such as chickenpox, a ringworm, poison ivy. Don't scratch it. Instead, do all the things, of course, that it takes to heal yourself or to prevent yourself from infecting yourself or making the situation worse. If you are a person who is not married and you're seeking the Most High God and you're seeking to be obedient to Him, but yet, it talks about in Scripture that a man should have their own wife and a woman should have their own husband, but you know for a fact you're not looking for someone to marry both men and women, and you're just having sex because of the pleasure that it brings you. That's actually really dangerous to your spirit. It's dangerous also to your body. It can infect you personally, and then it can also infect your spirit, having so many different people come in and out of you, for women with men, having so many women up on you, having so many women become attached to you, and you releasing yourself and giving a little bit of yourself and your spirit and your life with every interaction that you have, that can be infectious. And so just having that thought come across my mind, like I wanted to scratch it, of course, because it was itching, and that's the natural reaction to want to scratch. But I knew that if I scratch this, there's a possibility that first it's going to hurt, secondly it could do more damage than good. And that moment of satisfaction that I could have from being able to scratch it and it feels good, it could breed infection, which I know for a fact that I'm ready for this to be gone. I want my skin to be clear again. I want to go back to being myself. Nutshell, we have to think about sexual sin in the same way, if that makes sense. Like, I know that the pleasure can feel good for a few minutes, for an hour, a couple hours, you know what I'm saying? Whatever works for you guys. It can be great, but the consequences of that could be more detrimental, especially if you're not having sex within the bounds and the confines that God Himself, the creator of all things, specified that they be in. So if you are like me and you are patiently waiting on a husband or a wife, and yes, you've already been sexually active before, but that that we're not supposed to do those things. You're trying to be healthy both spiritually as well as physically. I want to encourage you, please continue to run. Continue to do what you know is the right thing to do so that you will not infect both your body and your spirit. With that, I'm going to say Shabbat Shalom, and that was just something that came to me this morning. So I guess it was just a necessary reminder. Now, that is to me, this can be applied physically for sure, but everything starts in our minds. So you may have to, no, not you may, you're going to have to deal with things first in your minds, because that's where everything begins. So you have to be careful about what you look at. You have to be careful even about the thoughts that you entertain alone. And trust me, I know about those thoughts. I think any human being who's ever been sexually active and then have to abstain, you know what those thoughts are. You have to fight those. You have to run from those. And you also have to not act those out. You have to not act those out. So it all starts in the mind first, which is also, in my opinion, considered the heart. Because it's where everything comes from. It begins with thought first and stuff like that. So I just wanted to encourage myself, of course, and then other people who might be dealing with that, who might have to struggle every day because, yeah, they want a wife. This is something that men have to deal with, and women. We're both natural. We're both designed to be sexually active. So, yeah. I want to say, stay strong in the Most High, not depending on your own strength, because it will give out, it will fail, especially if things are right for you, if the condition is right, it can fail. So you don't want to depend on yourself and your own strength. You definitely want the strength of the Most High. But with that being said, I'm gonna shut up and say Shabbat Shalom to everybody. Bye, you guys.